it's, and I hadn't even thought about it until recently, that's where City as a whole has probably done better. There's certain teams, Tottenham, that hold their players hostage.
Free Harry Kane.
It's free Harry Kane.
Free Harry Kane.
He can't win a title there. City offered a bunch of money a couple of years ago to get him. They said no. He's still there. He still has no trophies.
Bayern might break their
would love
transfer fee just to get him, and I'm pretty sure they're trying to break their transfer fee. He's their top priority right now. Oh, but I just don't see him. I don't see him leaving this window.
But that's.
I really don't. I want to see him at Bayern. I'd love to see him at Bayern.
Yeah, I mean Bayern Munich. For those who don't remember, that's his favorite team. But that's where Tottenham is holding these players hostage. Where City, if when Gundogan, again he was out of contract, but Mars wasn't, Silva's not, Laporte's not. They don't. When Sterling last year wanted to leave, when Zinchenko wanted to leave, they would have both played last season for City. They wouldn't have played maybe huge minutes. I don't want to say how much, but they would have played. They would have played consistent. They would have played on a team that ended up winning a treble. But they wanted to go somewhere where they thought they would play more. I don't know if that worked out for Sterling so much. Definitely worked out for Zinchenko. But I knew both of them would succeed when they left. Sterling was always my frustrated one with City because he'd make really difficult goals and miss the sitters. But so I wasn't terribly upset to see him go. But when Jesus left for Arsenal last year, Zinchenko left, I knew they were. One of our good friends is an Arsenal fan. I was like, I knew they were going to do really well. I grabbed both of them on my fantasy team initially until I think Zinchenko got hurt and then Jesus got hurt. So obviously they got dropped. But that's City does is if the spot isn't there, it's like Laporte. He's a great defender. We talked about this. France didn't want him for whatever reason. He banged his head against that wall for 3-4 seasons, and he could not get the coach to change his mind. He had an ability to go to Spain. Went to Spain. He went to Spain and was a starter like the day he showed up. So,
what's they won the Conference League?
He can't get on France's team, but he shows up in Spain and he's a starter. So, it's something. And I think Laporte last year Laporte had some injuries at the beginning of the season, and by the time he came back, every other defender was in Ake, who was fringe, and Akanji, who everyone was wondering why City even signed him, because he wasn't even starting for the team he was coming from. And, Pep, they do a really good job. This is a player that's going to work for our system. By the time Laporte was healthy again, there wasn't, you can't take out a player in film when you're going for all these different titles and say, well, we'll find you a spot. Well, there just wasn't time to work him back in. Doesn't make Laporte a bad player, it just means he was in the wrong place at the wrong time. But if he wants to leave and they find a legitimate spot, City will let him move on, which I think as a player you're going to be willing to sign with City. If 2 years in this isn't working out, they're going to move you on to a team that will. And that's kind of all you can ask. Like Cole Palmer, I think he's going to be here this season. I don't think he's getting loaned out or anything else. But at the end of the season, it'll probably be, is he good enough to stay with City? If he's not, what's the right fit, and get him to somewhere where he's going to play, and City will do that. They'll make some money along the way, but they'll do that. They're not going to hold him hostage if it's not, he's not going to be a fit for them.
Before we wrap this up, I'm going to have to your top 6 and who are the 3 getting relegated this season.
So you start.
No, you start. I asked you the question.
Oh, you asked the
question.
Okay. So top 6. I don't necessarily think City's going to win this season. It would be 4 in a row, in addition to defending the Champions League this year and everything else. If you had to ask me now, I think it's more likely City repeats in the Champions League now that that pressure's off having won.
Oh no, I wanted the Champions League.
Then wins the title.
No chance.
But I'm still, for the purpose of this, I'm going to say Man City is first. This is where it gets hard because, like I said, Liverpool struggled last year. I'm not sure where. They've lost Henderson from their roster. Who's second? This almost hurts me. I'm going to have to say Man U's second.
Wait, who you say first?
Man City first. Man U second.
Wait, I have a question though. This rule? You know how the Europa League winner gets straight into it, and since I think Liverpool's in there. I think they're gonna win it this year personally. If they win it and they're in the top 4, does that mean the 5th place team gets to go to the Champions League?
I believe so.
Okay. I think I have my top 4.
So third, I'm gonna stick with Newcastle getting third. Just so that one of my better friends doesn't throw something at me, I'm gonna put Arsenal 4th. Because if I put him outside of the top 4, I think he might, we may not be friends anymore. So that puts Liverpool out of the top 4, but I'm gonna say Liverpool 5th. Again, I'm with him. I do think where in the last few seasons it's generally come down to like 2 teams, or like the one season when City ran away with it, just them. I think you're gonna see these top 3, maybe down to 5, be much more competitive deeper into the season. I'm not saying it's going all the way to the end with 3 or 5 teams, but I think it's going to get into March, at least maybe April, where you're not sure which team's going to shut down. City doesn't lose after January as a whole, so that's where they've been very good over the last few years. So Liverpool, and then that leaves, I guess I'm gonna stick my neck out on Chelsea and say they're gonna get the 6th, and that's gonna be a big improvement over them. Lower on their normal expectations, but a big improvement over them last season.
We're working about the bottom 3.
Then the bottom 3, I gotta start with Luton Town. I mean,
20th?
I'd love to say no, but I think 20th is Luton Town's most likely. I hope they do better. Then you look at the other teams that came up, and it hasn't been like them going right down. But I'm gonna say Burnley stays up, Sheffield United goes down as well. So I guess they're 19th, and then I gotta look at who's that last. I think it'll come down to probably Brentford or Bournemouth. And
Brentford.
I don't know.
I think Everton.
You think? Yeah, no.
Everton was.
Yeah, actually, I'm gonna probably the 18th spot is gonna be either Everton or Bournemouth.
Not just out of spite of you, I think it will be Man U or Arsenal. I think they're interchangeable, 1 or 2. I'm guessing. I think Man U. I think they have more experience. I think they have a slightly deeper roster than Arsenal this season, but I think either or will win the title. I think it'll be a red season instead of a blue season like recently. I don't know. I just don't know if I can put City outside the top 3. I think that's the problem.
There's no way they're finishing outside the top 3.
That's the
Not with the roster they have.
the same with City. I just don't see them outside the top 3, so I'm going to put them 3rd. I think 4th and 5th is the trickiest to me. This is where you could put. I think Chelsea, Liverpool, Newcastle are all interchangeable, in my opinion.
No, you're not wrong. I mean, they could be any of them.
You think about it, these are very different styles of play. Newcastle is just more defensive oriented, winning crosses, winning handling, scoring your set pieces, just doing all the basics in football, basically.
Yeah.
Basically, Chelsea, it's a very high springing, counter-attacking, playing through with the systems and lines. And Liverpool, it's just a standard Klopp team. It's a very good Klopp team. I believe they had a bad season last season, but I think they bounced back. I think they'll get 4th place.
Could see that.
Why they get 4th place, so if they win the Champions League, I believe that we will see Chelsea back in the Champions League with the 5th position, because Liverpool, I believe if they win it, and next season they will be in the Champions League 5th position, right?
I believe, yeah.
So because I think they just probably get 1 or 2 spots. I know they at least get 1 for next season, because next season.
Oh, when they expand.
When they expand, I believe they get 1.
I think they get 1.
So I think we will see Chelsea at least then. I think it's Newcastle being 6. As much as I hate to say it, I think Newcastle will get 6. I could see Brighton or Tottenham switching, to be honest. I don't have faith in Tottenham, especially if Harry Kane leaves. There's no chance they get in. So if Harry Kane leaves, no chance.
No, unless they got a plan on how to spend that money really quick.
All right.
Which I don't have a lot of faith in the bottom 3.
Bottom 3, I think Everton's going down. I just don't see him staying up this season, that's for sure, in my opinion. Love Sean Dice, but I don't see him staying up. I think Burnley stays up for sure. I didn't see much of Sheffield United. I can't lie. I didn't see much of Sheffield United at all at the end of the season. I think. I mean, I have to go with Sheffield United, Luton just because I'm gonna go with Luton just because I just don't know if they have the players to keep it up with the Prem, especially this season.
It's tough. I mean, that's.
I think last season wasn't the strongest Prem as we've seen, but I think this season we're gonna see a very strong Premier League, very strong. I just.
Well, it's interesting because not disagreeing with you, but you're starting to see with the money that Saudi Arabia is putting out there that they're stealing players. Now, are they stealing enough players that it matters? Especially when you look at the incoming players for the Premier League as a whole have been pretty strong.
I mean, the only players that I'm like massively concerned about going to Saudi Arabia is maybe Sadio Mane, but he didn't really have a good season at Bayern. As a Bayern fan, he did not live up to expectations.
No.
As we thought, his second in Ballon d'Or or the season prior, I don't think he lived up to expectations at all. I actually like Sadio Mane, so I don't like saying that. Benzema, he was not informed at all last season, especially after winning the Ballon d'Or. Lewandowski beat him in every category in goals. Well, so you think about that. You have more Champions League goals than him, and he got on the group stage. And Benzema made it all the way to the semifinals of the Champions League.
Yeah.
After a Ballon d'Or season.
Oh, no.
So I can't.
Well, while we're talking about this,
Benzema's not.
Since we're talking Bayern and City, have you heard the rumor of if City loses Silva, who they might get? Leroy Sané.
I heard that.
He's on the short list of come back to City.
I don't know. Leroy Sané was very good for us last season, so.
My problem.
Big fan of his brother.
Yeah, I guess my problem with that is I like Leroy Sané was at City. I was very sad to see him go, but right after he left City, he had similar issues he had at City with the German national team.
That was the coach, though.
That to me comes down to, and maybe you're not wrong, but when you have the same problem at two different teams, then maybe it's the player and not the coaches.
But also he's also matured since he's left.
Right, and is Pep willing to take him back? I guess to some degree, based on what. And again, they didn't let it. Whatever the problem was, I never heard of even a rumor of what the real issue was.
So
I wouldn't mind having him back. I mean, if they're gonna play him, he's greased lightning on the left wing.
Also, Mahrez. I mean, he's probably the hardest one that would be. They just went to Saudi Arabia. I think that's probably the worst.
His first touch, if there's a better first touch in the world, I want to know who it is. Mahrez's first touch is
another
amazing.
team I can see getting relegated, especially since they're one of their best players left, is Wolves.
Yeah.
Honestly, I see Wolves could be slipping just on the fact it's their best player went to Saudi Arabia. It was just sad. They did not have a good season last season. I think their goalie is one of the worst ones in the Prem. That might be a hot take. I think Joey Sauer makes too many mistakes to be a Premier League first choice keeper.
Who was they got relegated. I think of it. Leeds. But they're not in the Premier League. I think he was the worst Premier League goalie last year, but we're in the discussion. But again, they're not in the Premier League this season.
Hopefully Leeds makes it back. I really like watching Leeds play, so hopefully they make it back next season. Championship is going to be stacked as well.
Which was it, Burnley or Sheffield that Horvath plays for? Ethan, the U.S. goalkeeper.
Luton Town.
Luton Town?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so he was with Luton Town, and they didn't bring him up with them. They let him go back. They let him go back. It really surprised me.
Where was he?
I think maybe he was loaned by a Premier. I think it was a Premier League club, but they had the option of keeping him, or at least that's the way it was. I saw it, and they did not, which surprised me because again, when you get promoted, the keeper's usually a big part of that, and to decide, hey, we're going to move on.
Maybe they ball him because I know the one they had he's an older gentleman, but we'll see.
We shall see. So that's the hot takes, hot predictions right off the press for the Real Football Show. Follow Noah the GK for goalkeeper 31 on Instagram. He will be posting regularly in Spain, and if there's there's something you wanted you know, there's a behind the scenes thing of what it's like to be in Europe, trying to pursue a dream of being a professional footballer, let us know, and we'll see if I can get him to give you some outtakes or intakes or however on that. So great to see you, Noah. Thanks for coming on the show.